Okay, today we're working into directions and bearings, and the main things we're going to worry about here are compass bearings and true bearings. Now, compass bearings have the compass points stated in the bearings, so they always start at either south or north, and then a certain amount of degrees towards east or west. Whereas true bearings always start at north, and they're always given as a 3-digit number. So even a bearing of, say, 35 degrees would be presented in a true bearing as 035 degrees. Now, often with bearings questions, we end up with parallel lines because, of course, every north line is parallel to every other north line. So we can use co-interior angles, co-interior angles and alternate angles to find angles on parallel lines, and then you might need vertically opposite angles or supplementary or complementary angles to deal with some of the questions. As far as our compass bearings are concerned, you all need to understand that north, east, west and south are all at 90 degrees to each other, and that northeast falls halfway between north and east, and southeast falls halfway between south and east. These are the main points that you guys need to understand because they can be written that way. It's less likely that you will see the bearings that are in 3 letters, but obviously south-southeast is halfway between south and southeast. So it's not particularly too bad, but if you remember those 8 key bearings, then you should be fine with most stuff that comes up. Okay, so just going off how we do this, the example 1 says state each direction as a compass bearing. So a compass bearing is going to start with either north or south first, and then a angle moving in a direction of either east or west. So in this case, this angle is closest to north, so it's north, and then we move 50 degrees in the direction of east, and that's the compass bearing. Really quite simple. And so for this particular one, first things first is I need to know what this angle is here. So that's going to be 90 degrees minus 43 degrees. Why is that the case? Because, of course, this here is a right angle between south and west. And the angle we want is the angle from south towards west. Every compass bearing starts with south or north. So I need to know what that angle is. The angle that's been given to me is not the angle that's going to show up in my bearing. So 90 minus 43 degrees, well, that's going to be 47 degrees. So we're going to have south, and then from south we want to move 47 degrees towards west. And that's how we do that bearing. So a true bearing, which usually you can probably assume, if you've asked for a bearing in mathematics, you can probably assume it's a true bearing. If all you're asked for, though, is a bearing and you give either answer, you're going to be fine. But just be careful when you ask for a true bearing, make sure you're doing it the correct way. So true bearings are always 3 digits and always measured from north in a clockwise direction. So there's north, and in this particular instance, we've got to measure the angle of south, which goes all the way around like that. And that's going to give us our bearing of south. So south is merely just going to be 180 degrees, going the opposite direction. So northwest, if we think about northwest, that's going to be up here somewhere. So our angle we're interested in goes all the way around here like that. Now that means it's going to be, the angle is going to be 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 45, if you want to do it that way, or you could say 360 degrees the whole way around minus 45. Either way, you're going to end up with the bearing being 315 degrees. Okay. So moving on to the next version, we wanted, don't know why there's an A there, just ignore that, and ignore that one as well. So in this particular case, instead of saying north 50 degrees east, this is just 050 degrees. Make sure it's a 3-digit response that you need to give. And once again, in this particular case, I'm interested in knowing the angle all the way around to here. Now, given that that's 43 degrees there, then this part here is going to be 90 degrees minus 43 degrees because they're complementary angles on a right angle. So that's going to be 47 degrees. So in other words, my bearing is going to be 180 degrees, which is all the way around to south, plus another 47 degrees, which is going to be, 227 degrees. Okay, moving right along. It's important to understand that bearings are taken from somewhere. So really pay attention to the froms and tos. There's a difference between the bearing of A from O and O from A. They're going to be different. So in the first example, A from O, we're looking at, it just says find the bearing, so we'll assume a true bearing. So we're looking at this angle in here, all the way around to that line. So if that little angle there is 45 degrees, that's going to be 90 degrees plus 45 degrees, which is going to be 135 degrees. Now, in order to go from back the other way, any point that you've been told to make, you can always draw a north line if we're talking about things in terms of bearings. So I could draw a north line there, and it's not a bad idea to put an arrow on it so you know it kind of looks like parallel lines now. So what I can see is that this angle in here is going to be co-interior with this angle in here. So I can work out the bearing, I can work out that angle first by saying, well, I'll call it angle dot. So the angle dot at A is co-interior to the angle dot at O. So if they're co-interior, it means they add up to 180 degrees. So therefore, 180 degrees minus 135 degrees is going to equal our bearing, which in this case is going to be 45 degrees. Oh, not bearing, sorry, is our angle. Very important that we don't say that's the angle. That's the bearing, that's the angle, sorry. So 45 degrees, so that means this use green here, this angle in here is 45 degrees. But what we need is we need the other angle. We need the bearing all the way around to here. And so for that, we're going to have, so therefore our bearing equals the full 360 degree revolution minus that last 45 degrees that we don't need. So that's going to be 315 degrees. Okay? Takes a little bit of getting used to, but just, yeah, notice where your co-interior angles are and where your supplementary and complementary angles are, and then make sure you're getting the right angle. A big mistake that a lot of people make is they would get the angle in here that we got as 45 degrees, they would get that part, and then they would forget to actually work out the actual bearing itself. Okay, so another example doing the same. So the bearing from A to B, well, that's going to be, from A to B, we're going to measure this distance, this angle around here, which is going to be, so the bearing is going to equal the 180 degrees we need to get round to south, plus 70 degrees more past that, so that's going to be 250 degrees. Nice and simple. Now to find our other angle, in this particular case, I can probably look at this angle here and this angle there and say they look like our good friends' alternate angles. Remember, these were Z angles, and if you look here, I can go there, there, and there. If I draw them in on parallel lines, they look so they look like they create a Z. So I can say that angle dot at A is alternate to angle dot at B. So therefore, angle dot at B equals 70 degrees, and therefore in this case the bearing is going to be 070 degrees. All right, because we've got to measure this angle in here for the bearing, and that's going to be 70 degrees. So that's that. Okay, we'll quickly run these ones through. So the bearing of C from A. So if I'm at A and I'm looking to C, well, that's just going to be 180 degrees. I'm after this bearing all the way around here like this. So that's 180 degrees. All right. The bearing from C, so I'm a little dot to say I'm at C, and I'm going to look at B. So if I was doing that, if the bearing is going to be around here from north, that's my angle there. So my bearing is 062 degrees. A from B, well, where am I from? I'm at B, and I want to know the bearing of A from B. So I need to draw myself a little north line, and what I'm after here is that angle around there. Now, if I extend my north-south line out here a little bit, I can see that this angle here is going to be equal to this angle in here. So what I've actually got is, so my bearing is going to be 360 degrees minus the 49 degrees, which is alternate there. So 49 degrees, so that's going to be 311 degrees. That's a terrible degrees symbol. We'll go again. There we go. Okay, and from A to B, so looking then, there's where I am, that's A, and I'm looking at B. So I need this angle here, which is going to be the full 180 degrees around to south, minus the 49 degrees that's given in the question there. So that's going to be 131 degrees. All right, now I think, we're up to questions that now require, I'll quickly see if I can get through these two. So B is north 50 degrees west from A. Draw a diagram to show this. So if this is A here, B is there, and my angle in here, oops, sorry, wrong way. My apologies. And for some reason my eraser's not working. There we go. Now it's worked way too much. So this angle in here is 50 degrees in those circumstances. Okay. So moving along from there, what is the true bearing from A? So we're after this distance around here. So the bearing is going to be 360 degrees minus the 50 degrees on the other side, so that's 310 degrees. And A from B, so for that, if I draw myself a little north line, I'll do this one in purple. I'm actually after this angle in here, which is co-interior, so my bearing is going to be 180 degrees minus 50 degrees, which is co-interior to that angle, and that's going to actually give me my bearing, so that's 130 degrees. That's how those are done, and I'll do a second video for the ones that involve trigonometry to solve.